How dare you hit on me? I'm a strong, independent woman.
No.
I will buy 5 of these sandwiches just so you leave me alone.
Oh, but like, embarrassment is like a social construct, though.
Yeah, right? It's like, oh, that's not how it's supposed to be going right now.
Yeah, and it's not really like, it's not really an emotion. Well, it's an emotion, but it's an emotion based off of like.
It's a bunch of emotions kind of
Yeah.
like put together.
I'm not conforming to this social construct, whatever social construct that is.
Well, you know, we still never went back and did it, but when we talk about like shame and vulnerability, that's like embarrassment is one of the side products of feeling vulnerable and actually being ashamed. Like, I'm not worthy of connection, or I don't feel like I'm connected to whatever it is in this room right now because of one reason or the next. So therefore I feel this way.
Yeah, it's I think it's more of like when you're afraid to be yourself, and then when that one moment where like you get exposed of yourself and then you're embarrassed of who you are. At least that's one avenue of it. I don't think that's everything, but like that's like if I like the only time I could ever remember being embarrassed is if I was in a group of people where like I just didn't feel comfortable being myself, and then I was myself for a second, and then like everyone kind of looked at me weird, and I was like, oh.
Yeah,
but that was years and years ago. Like
that one thing is like, well, you felt vulnerable because you were you, and therefore you were ashamed because you didn't think you were worthy of like connection to the rest of the group because you didn't feel like
because that like usually it's like that group has already been like a tight knit group, you know what I mean, and I'm like the outcaster to them, you know, and then you're vulnerable in that aspect. So yeah, no, I completely agree with that.
I mean, it's the same as like if you're in front of like your 3rd grade class and like somebody pulls your pants down. It's like, oh, nobody else has their pants down right now. Like, oh,
am I the only one?
I like how more people with their pants down would be like the solving issue. Like if Tyler makes his equation, it's like obviously if everybody else just took their pants off, everything would be okay. It's like I don't think that's how that works.
No, but it
probably would.
Well, I mean, it's that construct of shame. Like we were saying that really like relates to like embarrassment and vulnerability because like think like Becky, like she would go into our class or whatever, and they had like those like bodily figure gesture drawings, and it's like those people willfully signed up to be
the only person with their pants off.
Yeah, to be the only person with their pants off in that room. It's like, oh, okay, I mean, you're not ashamed. Oh, okay.
Well, it's like I think it was Billy Madison in that scene where
pee your pants.
Yeah, where the kid pees their pants. Like everybody who's cool pees their pants, and then he just gets every kid in the class to pee their pants. You ever see that?
I have no idea.
Oh man,
tell him.
All right, so Billy Madison's Adam Sandler movie, one of his better ones, and there was a scene where like he has to go back to school to get retrained.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So and then he's like they're on a field trip over at like some Plymouth Plantation type of place, and one of the kids just ends up peeing his pants, and his reaction to it, because everyone started laughing at him, and then he just like threw water on himself, and he's like, oh look, Billy peed his pants too, and he's like, you didn't pee your pants? All the cool kids are peeing their pants. And then he got all the kids to pee their pants. And then now everything was okay. Everyone got back on the bus with peed on pants. The bus driver was confused.
That sounds like an Adam Sandler movie.
That's exactly what an Adam Sandler movie consists of.
In a nutshell, Adam Sandler. Adam Sandler as a person in a nutshell is that description. But it's interesting because it's like embarrassment was never really my thing, or at least I never look back. Whenever I have this type of conversation, I can never really pinpoint anything. But I get really bad secondhand embarrassment. So like I'll be at an event and I'll see somebody else doing something, and I'll be like, no, I can't be a part of that. Like I can't even be in the atmosphere of this area to be tangentially related to this person who is just making a massive fool of themselves.
I get that when I watch like some movies or whatever TV show.
I'll turn off a YouTube video if it's that bad. I'll be like, nope, done. That's it. Not gonna do this.
Absolutely. It feels very awkward very quickly. And then like I just feel like that secondhand embarrassment where it's like, oh, you're about to embarrass yourself. I'm not gonna be a part of this.
Honestly, that is the worst. Like I have a really hard time sitting through things that make me feel like that awkward, embarrassed thing.
Yeah,
the cringe compilations. I can't do those. I can't do those. It's bad.
I can't do them either. I'm glad we're on the same page.
Side note. This is the Life Podcast. We're here 3 times a week. My name is Benjamin. I'm here with Tyler
Yo.
and Eric.
Yo.
Wonderful. And we're starting off talking about embarrassment. This is a social construct, though, and I think that's like the underlying issue of it is the idea of, listen, all of society says you act this way, and if you don't, that's socially, quote unquote, like it's like a faux pas. It's like not acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you should feel bad. Well, this is what the construct is that you should feel bad because you're not conforming to what society wants you to conform to. And that's like secondhand embarrassment too, where it's all like, you're not feeling the embarrassment, so I'm going to feel worse than you probably would, you know, where it's all like, I'm feeling embarrassment not only for myself in this situation, but also for you that you don't know how to do this thing.
I wish I could think of like some. I mean, I know I have embarrassing stories. I just can't really think of any of them, especially not this early in the morning.
Right? That's what I'm sitting here too. I'm trying to be like, oh, what are some times that like I got really embarrassed, or I was really embarrassed to do something.
Well, but that's one of the core concepts of it, where it's like, it's not relevant most of the time after it's done.
Yeah.
It's only in the moment
that it matters.
It matters, because you're only breaking the social construct once.
Yeah.
And maybe looking at it from an abstract perspective, as opposed to like, oh, one was a time that I felt embarrassed, where it's like embarrassment as a whole and what it means as a society.
Yeah.
You can feel. Oh no, that's all right.
No, I was gonna say you remember things that make you happy, like the good moments of your life, but like the embarrassment parts, I think that's just something that your mind just puts to the side. Like, oh, we could just forget about that.
Well, did I tell my friend Tristan's story about growing up with a bunch of cats on the podcast?
I'd never heard it.
All right, so this is a pretty good story. He would tell it if he was here. So my friend Tristan, ever since I ever knew him, I knew him since I met him in 6th grade. He always grew up and he always had like 5 cats in his house, at least 5 cats.
That's minimum. That's good.
Like his mom really liked cats.
Okay.
I think there's a difference between really liking cats and having 5 cats.
Well,
like,
they had 5 different cats, and like a few of them were like exotic. Like one was like a Bengal tiger mixed with like a cat. The other one was like some kind of like white leopard thing that mixed with a cat.
Bengal tiger mixed with a cat. What? No. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. They were really cool cats growing up.
Okay.
So my friend Tristan, like, you know, the perils of having a cat is like cats don't respect nothing. Like, they'll go and just like throw up under the bed. They'll go and like, even if they're fixed and they use the litter box, they'll go and just like whiz in like whatever corner they feel like on any given and random day.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the danger of having cats, I guess. And one morning, Tristan wakes up for school. He doesn't even like consider it. He goes and puts some clothes on. You put sweatpants, Boston Red Sox, a white Boston Red Sox T-shirt on, and he loved Red Sox, man. So everything was Red Sox. A red Sox hoodless sweater on, and went out the door to school. And he's sitting there, and he's sitting on the bus, and he's like, "Man, it freaking smells like cat pee on here. Like, oh man, I hope I didn't like." I don't know what the deal is. And their house was pretty clean too, but just cats are just mad random when it comes to like doing stupid things. And he's like, oh, well, like whatever. And it kind of like went away. It was just kind of faint. So he's going throughout the day. He's going to his classes. He's sitting there in class another time. He's like, man, it stinks like cat whiz. Like, like what is the problem here? Well, whatever. It's getting hot. So he ends up taking his sweater off. And he's like, just sitting in class, like, thinking like, oh, no big deal, whatever. He's like, man, it really, really smells like cat pee. Yeah, it smells worse. And the teacher asked him to go up to the board.
Oh,
so he ends up going up to the board. He's not thinking anything of it. He does whatever he has to do. He goes and sits back down, and he's like, man, I can't like shake this feeling. Like it just like stinks like cat pee. The white shirt that he was wearing, the front was fine. The entire back was a giant puddle, like a ring of just cat pee. And everybody at school saw it, and he was like, "Dude, I just threw my sweatshirt back on and suffered all day. I would have went home."
Did no one no one made a comment as he was going up though? I
forgot. Nobody really like made fun of him or anything, but just the fact of like,
just like, there's no way.
Like, no way, you have this giant yellow stain on the back of your shirt. Like,
yeah, it's more of like a no way. I'm not gonna be that guy to just destroy you. Because once
That
one
it-
person says it, then the entire like every thought comes out after that. So I mean, respect to the class for keeping it together, but
no one cared enough to really.
like no
even
one pulled it.
comment.
Like the teacher should have been like,
Everybody just ignored the elephant in the room, just kept walking. And they were just like,
yeah, well,
just sitting
Tristan
there.
wasn't like wicked popular either, but he wasn't like down in social hierarchy, but he wasn't like this popular kid. So
Yeah,
people
he-
probably just looked at him and be like, oh, like
That-
the cat's
that's
guy,
unfortunate, yeah.
cat's got your shirt.
Ha ha ha.
oh man.
But it's those little like moments that it's like, okay, it's funny because it was so extreme in the sense of like, oh, that's what happened. But like most of the embarrassing moments that we have in our lives are probably smaller, like little chunks of embarrassment rather than like this large story. Like
Yeah.
this is a multi-step process where it could have been fixed each time, and you just completely ignored the obvious solution, and you were like just going and doing something, you know. So that's why it makes it funny. Like that the embarrassment is the funny part.
Like, why do you think people have dreams when they're on stage in front of like a crowd of thousands of people and they're like in their underwear and they're like, oh God, no.
I don't know. I don't know what the issue is.
I've never had
that dream.
So
Never had that dream.
Well, the one thing that still does get me is sometimes when I like, and this is like that secondhand embarrassment kind of thing, where like I walk my dog and he'll just crap in a place that you really shouldn't have crapped. You know what I mean?
listen. If I walked my dog, I'd have no shame. You just keep going.
No, it's like, but I like I'll pick it up and stuff. Like I'm not like that evil, but like there was one day where he like crapped in like someone's plant that was like
Yes.
just like
it's
on
in the plant. That's awesome. Like,
yeah, but it was like this guy planted a lot of them, so he put a lot of effort into this, and then my dog just went, and then there's like this person across the street just like laughing, and I was just like, ah, and like that. But my dog does that to me all the time, so I get that secondhand embarrassment on a regular basis. Yeah, but that's one of those
That's
things.
funny.
But anyways, I'm glad we actually got to talk about that because I think we could bring it into the other topic too, which is
I don't want to grow up. I want to be a Toys R Us kid.
there it is.
That mentality. We could use that jingle now, considering Toys R Us is bankrupt.
yeah, right.
I'm just gonna take it.
Nonetheless, that's ours now. Yeah, scoop. No, but like the concept of like, a lot of people don't like to grow up. And I think that's one of those things where it's like embarrassment is bred into people, where it's like over time you teach embarrassment to children and then to adults in a longer term sense, because it's like, okay, you just think of like society, like people who don't have social constructs in a certain way. Like you work on a ship. There's nothing wrong with working on a ship. It just has a different social constructs than if you work at a law office. If you take somebody who works on a ship and put them in a law office, they're going to do a lot of social faux pas that somebody who works at a law office wouldn't.
Well, I don't think like the social construct really like constitutes embarrassment. I really think it goes back to like a personal level of shame, where because you can have somebody say like somebody who's just like this drug addict. If they're ashamed of being a drug addict, then it's like, oh, I have to hide my habit from everybody and like go do coke in private in the bathroom and like pretend like I'm not high
If you're
everywhere I
spending
go.
that much money on drugs, you should be proud of it.
That's an interesting
Yeah, like
opinion.
where did that
Sorry,
come
you
from?
said,
Hey, listen,
you
it
said
is what
coke.
it is.
If you're buying coke and you're embarrassed about it, buying like I don't know.
I think there's a lot of steps of embarrassment before the
Yeah.
coke.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, I don't know if that was. I mean, it definitely left field, but that came out of my mouth. So there you go.
Fair enough.
Anyway, so talking about that, like, or you can have somebody who's just like a blatant like reject drug addict who goes and like steals from people and just like gets high everywhere and anywhere and does not care. It's like, oh, you should be embarrassed right now because you're slurring, throwing up on the sidewalk, and you just stole like $10 worth of, I don't know, like houseplants from so and so to go sell so that you can get high. It's like, yeah, I'm not embarrassed about any of that, man. I live my life.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, like, okay, well, you have no shame.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think that that it comes to the person. You know what I mean? It comes down to that person's like how that person was raised and what is okay. Their moral system at the end of the day of like that, like something like that would affect most people. You know what I mean? Having to go through stealing something to get something it's a very selfish thing to do. It's something to be embarrassed about. But some people are okay with that.
I wonder if the difference between embarrassment and shame, I feel like, is intention. Where it's like embarrassment is I didn't intend to make this issue. I didn't intend to transgress like a social construct. Whereas shame is, this is the thing that I did. I actively pursued this thing, and I happened to also transgress some social construct.
Yeah, you know what? Like, I guess embarrassment's like accidental. Like, think about like you always need an excuse to spread your legs to stretch your legs.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you think about something like that, and then you look at Benji's face, and it's like, ooh, that was embarrassing for a second.
Nope.
He's like, oh no,
I
God.
forgot about that.
There was a blanket right over that one.
But like, but
yeah.
like something like shame, it's like that comes to like a disconnection where if you're not afraid to be disconnected from society or from the people group or whoever you are, it's like, okay, well, I have no shame. I'm not afraid to have connection or disconnection from you. So I'm gonna send it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can discuss that more when we get back. We're gonna take a quick ad break.
Stay tuned.
We would like to thank Anchor for sponsoring and hosting the Life podcast. So who are Anchor and what do they do? Anchor is the all-in-one platform that gives you everything you need to make and publish your podcast. And best of all, it's all free. Anchor allows you to use their creative tools to record and edit your podcast. No need for any fancy professional equipment. Sounds amazing, right? And we haven't even gotten to the best part. Anchor isn't just a recording and editing platform. They're a publisher too. This means that Anchor takes care of all of the hard stuff, like publishing to Apple and Google Podcasts, so you don't have to. So what are you waiting for? Download the Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started. Another thanks to Anchor for hosting, publishing, and sponsoring the Life podcast.
We already started.
Oh, yeah.
Of course we are. Wonderful. This is the Life podcast. Thank you for continuing to listen to whatever conversation.
Thank you for not being ashamed that you listen to.
So we found this.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
We found this this definition on Psychology Today, apparently a blog, whatever. Whereas embarrassment is a response to something that threatens our projected image, but is otherwise morally neutral. Shame is a response to something that is morally wrong or reprehensible. So that's the technical definition. And I like how they say that threatens our projected image, because that is what it is.
That's the key part.
Or it's like embarrassment is not. So I think that the thing that they're trying to achieve there is like saying embarrassment is net neutral, but it starts to tear down the little facade that you have built for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the interesting.
Like you get caught in a white lie.
Yeah.
You're embarrassed about it because you told that white lie because you wanted to look cool or something.
Well, that's a lot too, and I think that kind of rides on shame too, because lying rides upon like your moral construct and your moral foundation.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I have this thing, so I need to hide this thing because I'm ashamed of it.
I'm ashamed of it.
So I'm gonna lie to cover my tracks.
Man, this is a deep topic. It's like a lot of like.
I knew there was gonna be a lot to it, but I didn't hash any of this out. If you look in the show notes, it was just like talk about being embarrassed.
Tell embarrassing stories.
Well, it's a part of everybody's lives, and it's like it's one of those things where it's relative.
Yeah.
You know, where it's all like, and that's where I was trying to go with the idea of it's bred into people, where it's like we define social constructs as children or to children, and then we're like, okay, hey, little Jimmy, you can't take your shirt off in public. That's not okay. And it's like, well, why not? And it's like, because it's a social construct not to. And then that's more of a shame thing.
Well, and then what? But then what age is it like acceptable? Think about it. Like little kids, like they let like little boys and girls, or doesn't matter, just like run around like naked or like with no shirt on. Like, at what age does that stop becoming acceptable?
I don't know.
Well, at that point, it's like if the parents are stopping them from running around naked because they're embarrassed of the situation.
Yes.
And they don't want people to think that they're bad parents.
But it's morally neutral, but it could start like pushing on the like the lewd side.
Yeah, because it's all like it's one thing if your 2-year-old kid does it. It's a different thing if you have a 20-year-old that starts running around, like that. Those are two very different things. Like that one is embarrassment, the other one is shame. And it's like,
or lack of.
Yeah.
But I mean, as soon as the person that's running around in question gets to an age of understanding and they choose Like because when they were younger, you know what I mean, it was always okay to do that. So
Yeah.
then when they get to like 12-year-old, as well, now they're 12 and they still don't like to wear pants. It's just something that they're against, you know. And so like
That's the hill they're gonna die on.
Well, that's kind of a big thing too. And even if say kids are not raised like with a sense of morality or like any kind of moral background, like society will give them morals. Society will teach them morals anyway. Like I mean, if you were raised by say like wolves, or you were raised by no one, but you were around other people, eventually like people would tell you like society would teach you like, oh, it's not good to like walk around without pants on or whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we consume is like, especially with children, what we're consuming is what's teaching us.
Yeah.
If you're watching a show that shows an embarrassing situation, well, now you know that if that ever happens to you or anybody that you know,
You're supposed to be embarrassed.
You're supposed to be embarrassed.
This is the emotion you're supposed to feel.
Yeah. Wow, that's really deep.
Yeah, it's kind of.
Well, but yeah,
deep, man.
that's emotions as a whole, and this facade that we're taught a lot as children or even as adults. Like we use the children term because children learn a lot of information very quickly, but like us as people, you start a new job and you learn what not to say at this new job, or you start in a new social sphere and you know you learn the things not to say or to say in the social sphere.
I guess for Patreon. We'll get back to that. And if you haven't signed up for Patreon to get rubber ducks and coffee cups, all the behind the scenes things between our breaks here, go over to patreon.com. Links in the description. $1 a month. Send it.
Go there.
So it is something to be aware of, where it's like we talk about this facade a lot that we develop over time as people, where it's all like, okay, regardless of if this is me or it's not me, this is the person that the societal structure that I'm in requires me to be. And if I even allude to the concept of not actually being that person, that's what embarrassment becomes.
Or even look at something like difference between America and Europe. It's like, okay, you go to Europe, you're raised like it's normal for like two dudes to like share a scooter because that's all you had, or like walk around with like a leather handbag that kind of looks like a satchel or like a purse. I mean, coming from an American point of view, it's like, no, dude, you're walking around with a purse, but it's like, no, that's not gay. It's just European. Yeah. But like the social construct of America says like no butts to nuts. Like you don't ride a motorcycle with a. Look at Eric. Oh, he's embarrassed now. See, look, I'm gonna start embarrassing people. But like, you don't ride a motorcycle with like two dudes on it, and you don't certainly walk around with a purse. Like,
I've heard that saying before, no butts to nuts, but I never really registered what it meant until just now.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, for motorcycle riders.
Yeah, we don't ride butts to nuts, guy.
Conversation.
I got everybody embarrassed in
Not
here.
embarrassed. I'm just confused as to how this
I'm
went
ashamed
this way.
of this block of time.
Well, but now that's society's social construct. It's like, okay, that is normal. That's fine in there. Being Italian or even being Portuguese, like you go and you kiss like men kiss men as a greeting. Where it's like in America that gets lost. Where it's like, no, like that's not appropriate.
Yeah.
Or like that's weird. Not saying appropriate, but it's like it's a little weird.
Yeah, and
it
it's
makes
a
other
social
people
construct.
uncomfortable, and in order to, that's just a reaction. So when you're uncomfortable, you usually try to make a joke out of it and try to embarrass people
Butts
to make
to
you feel
nuts.
better.
Butts to nuts.
That's awesome.
This conversation deteriorated so rapidly.
It was such a good one.
It's
Go ahead.
I'm not trying to get the train back on the tracks.
Go for it.
It's a social construct.
It's a social construct, and social constructs obviously change based off of the area that you're in, and that's why this emotion is so important. Where it's because it can deteriorate so quickly. You can put up a facade in a day, and you can take one down but it has to come down over a period of time. Where it's like, okay, let's say let's say you lived in America. Okay, and then you go and live in Europe, and let's say the scooter thing, whatever, we'll use it as an example. It's like the first time you ride on a scooter and somebody else is like, oh, let me hop on. It's like, no, I'm not going to let you hop on the scooter. But after a couple of years, you're like, whatever, it doesn't make a difference anymore because you're now engrossed in that social culture. Whereas like the embarrassment changes over time, and that's when you realize how fragile of a system it is, because it's like embarrassment is relative not only to yourself but also to the social construct that you're in. That's why when Americans go over to Europe, we're so much louder than everybody else is, and we don't think it's a problem, and everybody else thinks it's weird.
Ashamed by it.
Yeah, because in America we're just louder people, as opposed to in Europe. So
You really
we're
think,
not.
you think so?
Absolutely, we scream compared to everybody else.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't find that to be so.
Well, I go to a lot of. Well, yeah, fair.
I don't know. I've been being in Europe. People are loud. People can be loud.
Hey, listen.
I don't know.
I was
It's-
just using it as an example.
It's cool.
I didn't. Mean
I'm not trying. I'm not.
I didn't mean to offend you. To say you're loud.
I feel embarrassed.
That's good. It is what it is.
ashamed.
Yeah, I'm ashamed of my loudness.
Don't look at my shame.
Yeah.
Well, I have finally I thought of a story,
Oh, there
a
you
more
go.
recent one. It's
Oh.
not really a story. It's just like one of those things where I didn't realize it, and it's not even like anyone caught it or anything like that. But it was like when we started going on the road and stuff, and it has to do with the Chevy Spark
Oh, yeah.
and the logo on the side, right? So Benji got the car, and the long story, but car came down. He has a car, and on the side of the car it says Benji and I,
Yeah.
right? And there's a logo of it, and we go on the road, right? And our first stop, I've seen the logo before, I never even clicked, right? And we go to our first stop, and we park in the back of the parking lot, and I get out the car, and I shut the door, toof, and then I look over, and I look at Benji, and I look down, and then I was like, wow, we just look like a game.
I am now the I.
I am now the I.
Yeah.
And that was just like, and that was like a really personal thing. Like nobody like made a joke of it or anything, but it was just like me coming to the terms of it.
Hey, that's so funny though. Like, but you projected insecurity into that.
Yeah,
like, because of
absolutely.
the appearance.
Absolutely, and it was just like, the social construct of like the society we live in. And it's like, wow, okay, so it's funny.
Well,
I laugh.
Never mind. I'll keep that comment to myself.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Fair enough.
No, I didn't. No, but it is true. It's like it's interesting, and sometimes that it's the appearance to ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's that's one of those things where it's all like, how often do you think about the problem, like the mistakes that everybody else made, and how often do you think about the mistakes that you made? And it's all like nobody else really, like, it sounds so horrible, but nobody else really cares about the lives of anybody else
Right.
outside of their immediate group of individuals.
I think a lot of times we project insecurity into embarrassment. It's like you're not like you can look in a room and be like, you're not embarrassed right now because something like weird or bad happened or whatever, and it's like, and everybody else is not embarrassed and you're embarrassed. It's like, oh, you're projecting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you project exactly what you feel inside, and that insecurity will come out. And that's why you're embarrassed about it, because you're insecure about the situation. And no, it's actually
and you assume that people are seeing something that they're not really assuming. Like because people are the main character of their own story, we assume that everybody else is seeing everything that we're doing. So it's all like, use the example of really quickly, the idea of falling, where it's all like you fall and you get right back up, or you trip and you fall and you get right back up, and you're like, you look around to see if anybody saw you, and nobody cares. Like you
Even
just
if you fell down, nobody cares.
But it becomes this massive thing to us because we're like, oh, how dare I lose my motor skills for a fraction of a second and fall down the stairs? And it's like nobody really even cares that you fell.
Other than
it actually,
you all right?
Yeah.
yeah, it actually makes it worse when you ask, like, if someone asks you all right, because then it confirms, like, damn, somebody did see that.
But it's we as humans, we have these weird little, like, interesting little things about like our psychology, where it's like, why do we care if somebody saw us fall? And it's like, because it's subconsciously, it's like this idea of you don't know how to walk, and it's like, okay, you didn't learn how to walk, and it's like, no, 99.9% of the time I could do this, except this one time I failed, and I'm like, oh no, everybody thinks I'm a failure because I don't know how to walk up the stairs, you know?
Yeah, we were talking about it briefly yesterday, because you were talking about like learning instruments, and
Oh, yeah.
and the idea of like the hardest thing to do, like, or the hardest thing about learning an instrument as an adult is when you're a kid and you're learning the instrument and you play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, you're proud of that, right? It's an easy song,
even if it sucks.
Even if it sucked, you're like really like, yeah, I'm so happy that I just did that. Oh, I love this song. As an adult,
turn it up.
yeah, exactly. As an adult, you play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and you're like, all right, bet I have the knowledge of a 2-year-old. And like, it's just like you're embarrassed of that. Like, so just like, even though there's no one in the room, and it's not satisfying, and that embarrassment of just like, I want to play Mozart, I want to play the next level stuff, but I have to play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star until my fingers fall off and get this down so I can understand how to like finger pressure and everything else that you have to learn before you can get to those levels.
I think. Oh no, keep going.
And I think that's another level of like you're ashamed of it, where you don't want to show people that, you don't even want to tell people that you're learning a piano because they're like, oh, play something, and be like, no. Twinkle, twinkle.
I don't even do that, honestly. Like at that level, like I can't perform like a music box. Being a musician, like if somebody says like just play, like, oh God, you play me something, it's like
I forgot everything that I've learned up until this point.
Yeah, I can't perform under that kind of pressure.
Yeah.
And the next level to what you're talking about, and it's so true, which makes the best musicians, is being able to be vulnerable and playing your own songs like that without worrying like what people think or what people say, or even showing like you could be awesome behind closed doors, but the minute people are watching you,
It's like, yeah.
And you could even do awesome, but it's like
You're insecure.
I'm so insecure about having that disconnection, and if I disconnect from those people in the room from something that I actually like I don't want to not be accepted.
Yeah.
That's really deep and weird.
Yeah, and like there's a lot of cases where like you'll see someone who plays something, right, and then as soon as like one note misses, instead of just moving forward, it's like, oh, I gotta start over, I gotta make this perfect, and then they go all.
And that makes it 10 times worse.
It's so much worse. Now I gotta listen to the whole thing again, guy. But anyways, but instead of like if you have the insecurity, you start over. But if that doesn't bother you and you make the mess up, you just keep moving forward, and you finish, you know, and the insecurity makes you keep restarting, and that's really a hard place to learn.
It's a confidence thing, because you can look at any situation and say, like, there's a difference. The line between embarrassment and it just didn't work or it didn't happen is very fine. Like, it's like if you go into a situation and you say, like, I know nothing about music, and most people don't know most things about music. Obviously, if you play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star incorrectly, somebody's going to notice. But if you're going along and you miss a note, most people aren't going to notice. But if you make a big deal out of missing a note, then that escalates the whole situation. And I think that's like a larger concept, where it's like our lives as a whole, where it's like mostly if you're just confident and you just do something, most people won't even notice if it's embarrassing or it's not embarrassing.
Absolutely. And no, that's actually really good.
And that's it.
We'll be back. Stay tuned.
The hardest part about not being embarrassed is, like, you know, you have to just accept whatever you're doing, like the whatever it is. Like it's just like, okay, I'm gonna do this thing, I'm gonna ask this question to this person, and it's like, okay, if the whatever, like let's say let's use a romantic relationship as an example, because it's the easiest one to,
you guys get tax benefits, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah Get a free house, actually. Get a free house. It's not like, oh, like everybody, like, okay, so maybe this is an internet thing or whatever, but like everybody seems to have an issue of like interacting with women the first time they interact with them and asking them out on a date and whatever. But it was like it's always easiest for me to just do it. And it's like, I think that sometimes the build up in your mind becomes higher than actually doing the action,
and then it increases the chances of you saying something stupid.
Exactly, where it's like the actual interaction is a 30-second window or whatever,
Probably
like where
less.
probably less than 30 seconds, where it's like, and you spend a week thinking about it, and then it's like you boil yourself. Oh, it's kind of like watching a pot boil, where it's like you turn on the heat and then it just like slowly increases, and as it gets closer and closer, it like boils over. And it's like, why is that? Why are you putting yourself through that mental stress? And then the embarrassment becomes so much worse if the person like denies you,
or even
it's like,
or even you're using the pot example, or even like watching something, like say you had like a sauce on the stove, or like some liquid, and it was boiling down. It was getting so condensed where it was just this little thing. It was really like diluted and watered down, but you boiled all the water out of it because that's all you've been thinking about. So now it's like this big concentrated problem.
Yeah.
Psychoanalyzing you. Actually, before we do that, hit the jingle.
Practical life application.
There it is.
All right. So getting back into it, psychoanalyzing Benji and why he can step into that so well. I mean, this is easy. It's because he's comfortable in who he is. He's secure in his identity of who he is, where he stands, and his moral construct is upright, and it has a framework. So he's not going to have any kind of hidden surprises on what's embarrassing and what's shameful and what's not. He's not ashamed of who he is because it's there in the light, and it's like, you like it or not, it's okay. I don't have to be connected to you to feel any kind of extra self-worth.
well, yeah, and I think that's one of those things where it's like you get lost in your own mind. where it's like you like if you just accept the facts for what the facts are, you don't, and that's one of those embarrassment things, because it's like that's why that psychological journal was such a heavy hit, was because it's like the projected self-image, as opposed to the actualization of that self-image, where it's like if you have like, let's say you're selling a block of wood, it's like, this is a block of wood. Now, if you try to sell it off as something massive, grandiose, like this is this massive thing, it's like when somebody says that's a block of wood, you're gonna hyperventilate. Exactly. You're gonna be like, no, it's not. It's more than that. It's a candle holder. It's an artisanal candle holder.
It's a paperweight.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all like, no, that's a block of wood. And this is a funny little dumb example, but this is what we do every day with our lives, where it's all like, we create this grandiose self-image, and then if somebody pokes you and it's all like, well, but you're not that, or you're not that yet. It's like we become like existential. Yeah. And that's where embarrassment derives itself from. Yeah. You know? And we use the example of like the relationship thing, because you boil into it.
And your level of connection. Like if you put all your stock into like this will give me meaning if I actually connect with this person or not, that's where that shame and embarrassment comes from, or like that projected self-image where it's like, oh, like I didn't have to connect with you. Like, hey, you want to go get coffee or not? It's like, okay, well, you did not add or subtract from any of my self-value or worth or my life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The end.
Boom. For me, like one thing that I did because in high school and growing up around a bunch of people, especially like going to public school and stuff like that, you end up creating facades like unintentionally, and then so when you get into adulthood, you spend a majority of your 20s trying to take down all the weird facades that you put down.
Absolutely, no, it's true.
And so one of the things that I did to kind of it was all unintentional. It's just what ended up happening was it was like the friends that I had made during that time, and I was able to project myself in a way where I was comfortable, to a point where I was able to be myself and realize that I was accepted with who I was, and I didn't have to pretend to be anybody to be accepted. There were and that's where I had to do, quote unquote, but like that's what happened to me that really helped me find who I was being around people and being able to practice being myself instead of just like trying to be behind closed doors and try to come up with like, I want to be this amazing person, like this or this and that, and then you come out and you're like, I'm very confident and like I'm this, and it's like it might not be you, so you have to practice being you.
Or talking about like projected self-image and everything too. That's why my friend ended up making it out with that giant cat whiz stain on his shirt. It's like, and he wasn't cooked for the rest of his life. He was embarrassed for the fact that it happened, but he didn't have a projected image of like, oh, I don't have cats, like this doesn't happen at my house, like this isn't something that's been a normal like occurrence before, like oh crap, that stinks, and like you have to walk around all day like that, but whatever, he wasn't worried about that.
You got to be confident in who you are. You have to be, and I don't even know confident if it's the right word, but you have to love who you are. Yeah. And if you love who you are, then the people around you doesn't affect how you feel about it. And is it difficult? At times, yes, it can be difficult, because sometimes you're in a situation where you were really trying to impress somebody, like that girl that you wanted to go say hi to, or that business deal that you really wanted to go through with, and then they just didn't happen to like you as much as you like you. And those things are okay. You become okay with those things. But I think loving yourself is the first step to like really getting better at the whole ashamed and embarrassed. Like the things that you're ashamed of make you who you are.
Well, if you love yourself, you don't really have to try, because when you try to impress somebody, or you're really trying, it's because you're trying to put up that facade, or you're trying to project this thing that you think that you are, or you are, where it's like when you walk into every situation, you love who you are, you're not afraid of whatever the outcome is, because it's genuine. It's like, okay, and you'll actually have the best success of impressing somebody because they'll like you for you. Yeah. Not who you're trying to become or what you're trying to show them, like according to their perceived persona.
Yeah.
We see that even nowadays in media, where it's all like this concept of this high production value finalized media content is going out the door when it comes to like vlogging and stuff like that. And now like the kings of YouTube, or like the high players in YouTube,
the iPhone warriors.
That's it. It's like iPhone and like little like funny little there's this YouTuber, I forget her name. In a year, she went from 1,000 subscribers to 3 million. And it's just like this like zero production quality iPhone video, little attachable microphone thing. It's nothing high end, but it's like people are so tired of this facade that they want to see something low
Real.
production quality, quote unquote real, regardless if that's actually real or not, because people have gotten so good at emulating this quote unquote found footage
Yeah, the
iPhone
fake,
content that it's so far into being fake that it looks real.
Yeah.
Well, it's the accessibility of it. You know, having a fully set up camera where it takes you 20 minutes to set up, 20 minutes to take down. That now you're going into the realm of you have to prepare to get this shot versus pulling out your phone and the camera's there, and like this is much more real than it would have been if I had to take 20 minutes to set up a camera and then say what I was gonna say. So I think that's where like you get the more real authenticness of it, is because you don't have to, it's just like, oh, boom, and you pull out your phone and you start going.
Well, now you can see that the way in like in TV shifted that way. Well, first it was multi-camera angle TV shows that were fake. They were staged. They were everything. You had your host. You had whatever you had to have, and then reality TV with the real world came out, because like real world was probably like real for like one season, and they were like, oh, we can capitalize on this, and then we had fake reality TV for a decade, and now it's like people actually want the real, and they're trying to capitalize. And the minute people start trying to capitalize on something, like,
Oh yeah,
that goes right out the window. Think about somebody like, I mean, I don't care if people like it or not, or they get upset, but like somebody like Liza Koshy, when she started out, she was hysterical. She was hilarious. I didn't even know who she was, and I saw a couple of videos, and she was like, this girl was really funny, and now she's not funny at all.
I mean, she also had a mental breakdown, but that's not.
But that's neither here nor there. And that's
Yeah.
because if she was just her, then she wouldn't have a she wouldn't have a problem. She went back to basics, but now it's like, oh, I need to have like this multi-camera TV drama or whatever it is. It's like, that's not what made you a success. That's not what made you thrive. You're missing the element of why people liked you in the first place. It was you for you, your personality and who you were.
Yeah,
it's true, and that's an important part that a lot of people seriously mess up. Where it's like you start a business. How many times have you seen, like, movies? They make this such a big thing, but like it's a real concept where it's like you start a business and you're like, you forgot who you were, like you lost. Oh my goodness. You lost sight of who you were.
We almost lost
like,
Benji.
Yeah, I know. I was like, you lost sight of who you were, and you forgot like your roots or whatever. And it's all like, no, you forgot your roots or whatever it was. And it's like, I'm trying to, but like, but the
I've seen
concept.
that movie.
Yeah, I've seen this
Drama.
movie. Yeah, drama.
My brand.
Yeah. but it's true where it's all like, so many times we forget what made us who we were, or what makes a person who they are, and you get so attached to the facade, and this is why people have these existential crises or these mental breakdowns, where it's all like you get so engrossed in the facade of who people want you to be that you forget who you were, and then to come down from that level is a very, very hard fall.
Yeah. I mean, from this particular perspective, you essentially will trade in who you are for something else. So usually that's a
For the
dollar
paycheck,
amount.
yeah.
Right.
So you trade that in, and then sometimes you get to a point where you're like, crap, this money didn't make me as happy as I thought it would.
Yeah.
And now I can't go back because I'm locked in contracts, and now I have to finish this up. And then like it's just like a weird place, and I think I'd probably have a breakdown too.
Right.
Yeah.
At Demi Lovato.
Yeah.
At Liza Koshy.
Yeah.
All right, so
Keep it anonymous.
Yeah.
boiling this down to come back to like embarrassment and shame. Remedy for embarrassment and shame is to really be secure in who we are, to know who we are, to sit down and have a cold, sober look at who we are and how we're constructed morally, how we're constructed financially. If you're embarrassed of your financial state, it's because you have to try to project of something that you're not. Where it's like if you're broke is a joke, but you're secure in who you are. And you know that's not where you're gonna stay, or you have a projection of the future. Like you're eating out of a 48 pack of ramen. It's like, yeah, but I'm not gonna be eating out of this 48 pack of ramen forever. Or this is what I have to do so that I can get to point B.
Yeah.
I'm projecting.
No. That was
The
actually
end-
really funny.
The ends justify the means.
Well, I mean, that was a really funny, like, I ended up paying more for that 48 pack of ramen than I would have if I had bought 12 packs of ramen.
Yeah, we found that out very shortly
it
after.
was
Like,
like
wow, you got ripped off.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, but I like the novelty of it. But I understand what you're saying, and it's very true.
Or like you have to go and buy the bougie bottle of Fiji water because you
Yes.
have to project the image versus like
Yeah.
versus you like it. If you like it, not because of the image, but because you like the taste of it, it's like that's one thing.
Yeah.
Or like you're super rich, like it doesn't stop people from drinking a Poland Springs water.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The amount of times I've gone into like a convenience store with people and like everyone just goes in to grab water and everyone grabs a different brand. One person comes back with a Fiji, the other one with Smart Water, and then one person, usually me, with the Poland Spring.
Yeah, right. Oh, this is
Cheapest
2 for $1.
Yeah, it's like
Absolutely.
you know, and
Oh, we this
I never
this
thought of
is-
that before, but that's very true.
This is denoted as like the quote unquote white girl basic thing, whatever. But it's
Hey.
like
Someone's triggered.
Starbucks and like the whole thing, and it's like I like Starbucks too, but it's like if your whole paycheck is going to Starbucks and Whole Foods and like I don't even know, like designer bags and stuff like that and shoes, it's all like, listen, if that's you, that's fine, but it's like there is a fine line between I'm buying this because I like it and I'm buying this because I have an appearance that I need to keep up.
Yeah, right.
And it's all like
and that's like you're just putting up a giant wall of embarrassment and shame. You're inviting embarrassment and shame to come into your life when people find out that you are who you are in the dark, and like
yeah.
you're just playing everybody.
Yeah.
And it's all like, it's one thing to buy something and like be happy with it and to do it, and it's another thing to pay 27% interest on your lifestyle, and that's a bad hit.
Oh.
If like,
Ooh, you heard that, Jen?
yeah,
Jenny? Jennifer?
Yeah. Oh, can I share the Jennifer story from New York?
yeah, sure. I don't remember what happened.
Well, this is like another secondhand embarrassment. So you were there when we were in the Starbucks line.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna call her Jennifer because I don't know her name.
That's fine.
And then what's Jeff? Okay, so Jeff and Jennifer, right?
Yeah, before they were married.
Yeah.
Jeffrey.
So right, and so this is this dude,
Don't
right?
tell Jenny.
Good looking guy, and he starts flirting with this girl, and they're like he is spitting game. He's doing his thing.
He was going at it. He was doing good.
He was 5 stars, right? They get to the line, and then like it's at the very end, and they're cashing out, and Jeff was like, oh, I'm gonna pay for her sandwich because I'm the man, and I got this, right? And so he's like, oh, let me pay for this sandwich for you. So he just paid it for her, and then she just looked at him, and she just said, bet. And she went over and she grabbed like 4 more sandwiches and like 12 drinks out of the thing.
Bad hit.
Put it all on the counter and just swiped the card. And before she could even finish swiping the card, Jeff was gone. Jeff had left the conversation.
He cut his losses.
He cut his losses very quick. But I was just like, ouch,
that is actually, I think that's unwarranted. Like, I don't. You think she really did that like because she felt insulted that he wanted to pay for her stuff?
Not
I wasn't
that-
there, so
No, it wasn't that she was insulted that he wanted to pay for it, but she saw him as a friend, and she was just like, bet, he bought me a sandwich. Okay, I got to buy more. It's like, boom, done. That was it.
that was like it was friend zone maneuver.
Yeah, it was. You had to be there. There was a lot of like body language involved in it, and
okay.
I was like dying.
I thought that was like, how dare you hit on me? I'm a strong, independent woman.
No.
I will buy 5 of these sandwiches just so you leave me alone.
No, from the outside perspective, I think she was buying lunch for the crew who was at the trade show, and he was flirting with her, and he bought her lunch.
Yeah.
And then she was like, well, I gotta buy the rest of the lunch. for the
and he
crew."
took it as like,
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah, I bet. And he's like, peace out. But it was such a funny.
secondhand embarrassment for and I was just like, ouch.
I thought it was funny. I thought it was doing
Miscommunication and
good.
disconnection.
Yeah.
Look, he projected his insecurities into that situation, and he probably still could have shacked up with her.
Probably, yeah.
If he would have known, if he would have stayed in the truth and stayed in the light.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
These things happen. All I know is that she cleaned out the Starbucks juice line, and I don't think a lot of people were very happy about that one.
Yeah, fair enough. There was no juice left. At the
She-
she
she
came
was-
and left, and she was like,
All right, anybody got anything to send it home with?
That's it. Don't be embarrassed. Nobody's watching. It's legitimately. It's like how many? Think of it this way. Walk down the street and see how many people you actually pay attention to on a normal day, and see how many other people are paying attention to you. And the number is usually none.
yeah.
And it's like, if you were to do something embarrassing, the chances that anybody would actually care and or anybody would actually see it are very low.
If it's genuine, just own it. If you struggle day to day with shame, like more so than most people, if you feel like that's a big problem in your life, head over to the studio page, and we'll have some other materials talking about shame and how to be able to get out of shame and be unashamed. And yeah, so that's it. And we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Life Podcast. If you like the show, please rate us on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us out. If you feel like supporting us in a more direct way, you can check out our Patreon page linked in the description of this video. One last thing. Please let your friends know about the podcast. If you like the show, we're sure they'll like it too. If you'd like to reach out to us, send us an email at thelifepodcastshow@gmail.com. We appreciate all of your support, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, now let's have a little bit more fun with that, Benji.
I don't like to have fun, Eric.